Howdy, and thank you for watching. This is Matt with Sunrise Yacht Products, and today we're going to walk through the replacement of a trampoline net on a Chris White designed Atlantic 42 Catamaran. This is a fantastic blue water boat, and today we're going to give it the quality trampoline net it deserves. I am joined by several of our shop net techs today, Caleb and Mike, in the installation, and the total installation time was about 2.5 hours. We tried to highlight the tips and tricks that can help cut your installation time in half and minimize the headaches. We manufactured the net we're installing today at our shop in St. Petersburg, Florida, and I should note that we expect this net to be highly functional for 12 plus years in high UV tropical saltwater conditions. We believe that all netting is not created equal because we create netting to outperform anything else available in terms of durability, aesthetics, and comfort. We hope you find the upcoming detailed instructional helpful, and thanks for watching today. Alright, let's get started. You can see here the nets that are on the boat. These have been on the boat about 6 years and are the second or third nets in its lifetime. As you can see, there is some significant damage on the net. The customer has put his foot through the net and is lucky he didn't fall all the way through. Just as a point of note, I would highly recommend replacing the nets before they reach this stage. When looking at a trampoline replacement, there's a few areas we want to look. One is the attachment point style. Now in this case, what we have is lacing slides in the forward crossbeam, stainless steel. This is very standard and what we see on the majority of catamarans. It's rare that those will need to be replaced. Stainless steel is typically life of the boat, maybe half of the life of the boat. If you have them, the main thing we're going to check is to see is if you have enough to support a good lacing pattern, which I would go into another detail. Other things I'm going to look at are, do you have attachment points in the corners, like this one? This is a Chris White design, and he puts a lot of attention to detail. This net, just from the feel, could definitely use retensioning. It's good enough, and actually, with it being at end of life, you do not want it fully tensioned because it will fail faster. Here's the failure points. This particular net is a Rochelle net, uncoated. It's about a 5/8 inch opening. I think it's a 15 millimeter. It's been individually laced. We'll do something a little different on the replacement, which I'll show you. Coming back to this corner, we're going to be checking to see how close the attachment points come to the corner. Chris has built in a nice corner pull eye right there, which is quite appreciated from the design perspective because we can build a better net that way. And you'll see how that comes together when we get installing. You can see that there is a slight difference in plane between this outer lacing track and the aft lacing track. That's not an issue for something like this. The lacing can make up the adjustment for a difference in plane like that. Other thing, this lacing track, one of my favorite designs, with the stainless slides, super durable, super strong, really long lasting. You can get a good pull and good tensioning with that. Alright, one thing I want to point out before we take this old net off is the issue of failure points. On rope board or nets, there's some specific areas where you're going to run into failure unless there are designs taken to fix it. So what you have here is failure points because you have a stress riser. See this scalloping? So what that means is that this area right here is seeing by far the most stress. It's not getting transmitted to this area. So our reinforced grommet borders do address that. And it's something just inherent with a rope border design that you have to
either have overly strong nets to take care of or closer together lacing points. So if you look along this, you've got a failure point here, 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 and here. Now this side is clearly seeing the most stress overall. We'll see a few other spots as we go around though. Alright, so you can also see that right here. So with rope border nets, you're almost always going to see the issue on the borders exactly where it's laced. So before you install, we highly recommend you review the drawing. Check your different lacing points, the number of slides to be used, and the lacing pattern to be used. In this case, we have a double lacing pattern on all sides, except for the aft, where there's enough slides to use an alternating lacing pattern. Alright, so first thing you're going to do is just lay the net out over the old net. And it's going to look like it doesn't fit if it's one of these 3/8 offshore nets. That said, just because it looks like it doesn't mean it won't. This is looking about perfect for this size of boat right now. So you're going to do a few things at this point. One is that you want to make sure that you have our logo on the forward outboard corner on the top. If you have two nets, then your starboard net is going to have that logo on it at the forward outboard corner, and it should always be oriented to the top. These nets do have sides, and although they can be flipped, the top is a little stronger and more comfortable. Then you're going to get your lacing kits and start laying them out. They should be labeled. In this case, I have the starboard. Go ahead and put them on the sides and get going. Okay, so at this point, we've started tying out the corners. We have 3 corners just with some temporary ties in there to start getting the net pulled out. And Mike is now going to show how to do a temporary tie out on a corner. So in this case, we have a corner eye that we're going to lash to, and we're going to tie a small bowline knot. When I say small, you just want the knot very close to the eye. Otherwise, it can get in the way when you go to tighten the net up. As you'll notice, we'll do this with the current net on. Once we get this all tied out, then we'll consider pulling the old net. So we're using a 7/64 Dynema, which is a small diameter, and we're going to do multiple wraps. You'll notice that the pattern is down through the grommet and then up through the eye. Later on, that becomes important when you go to tension. Now you'll see he's going to do 3 wraps here, and what that does is, with the slipperiness or low coefficient of friction of Dynema, makes it act as a mini pulley system. So when he pulls up, he's able to tension out this corner with quite a bit of force. Then he's just going to do a temporary knot. We still have to cut the old net out, so all we're doing is throwing a single or double half hitch on to hold it well enough so we can start the next steps.
This time lapse should help you see how the net takes shape during the initial lacing process. In designing the net, we intentionally make the net require some significant tensioning to reach its final shape, because this is necessary to ensure that the net is stable underfoot after installation. We also design our nets to have a little extra room around the sides so that as the net stretches with use, there is still enough gap to be able to retension and maintain a stable netting platform. All nets, even Dynema, will stretch with use, and designing to allow for this is a critical part of what we do.
Alright, so we have the net partially tensioned. I'm going to show some details about that here. So, one thing I've done along the front is used a little trick where we do some temporary tensioning. We use the individual lacing line, just a few extra scraps, and tighten it up. Now, as you can see, it's gotten loose because we started to pull some more tension on the main lacing line. but I've done this in a few points where I really want to pull the net up to gain the ability to tension some. All right, y'all ready? It's net break-in time. Oh, I'll definitely cue that up. Jump around, jump around, jump up and get down. Now if you could, demonstrate walking all around the perimeter to get that edge break in. All right, so on this side, what we're doing is we're coming through. We started down here, we moved our way up. We're tensioning this side, and we're using lacing hooks. There's a few things to watch here. One, if you take a look, the lacing hooks he's holding. Here, if you could show them to me. We've got 2 of these, and we have a double lacing pattern this side. So if you watch, he's going to be walking this. There's a few things. It's very simple. So he holds with one, grabs the next line with the other, pulls up, then grabs with 2, and gives a good firm pull. Then moves to the next. And this net is coming right about to where it needs to sit. So you can see how much tension he can pull that way, and then walks it forward with the next. As you do this, you want to make sure that your lacing slide, if you're on a boat that has lacing slides in the track, is perpendicular if you're doing a double lacing pattern to this grommet. So if it's not, then you'll tap this so that it is. And what that does is actually it loosens the line just a little bit when that happens, because it puts the lacing slide closer. So if you don't do that, eventually the slide will move there and you'll have a looser net over time. So it's best to do that at this stage. All right. Now, as it comes to the end, we haven't decided that this net is fully tight yet, so we're gonna just do a temporary finish. So in this case, I'll help hold the tension so that he can undo the knot. And what we have here is just a couple half hitches. All right, and so all he's going to do here is put 1 or 2 half hitches, just a temporary knot, so that we can do a full inspection before we do final half hitches to finish everything off. All right, Atlantic 42 3/8 offshore installation is complete. We have a little tidying up of our lacing line, but otherwise what we have is on the forward edge a double lacing pattern. On the outboard edge, a double lacing pattern. And on the aft edge, an alternating lacing pattern. We only did that because there were enough slides to support an alternating, so we put them to use. This is how much the net deflects with a 195-pound man walking on it. Nice and steady. This is a very large net, much larger than your average trampoline. Overall, great installation. One quick point, as we finish up, notice we've done 2 wraps here because that acts as a little pulley system and helps lock in the tension when we apply it. So to tighten up the end, we're going to do a few wraps around the lacing handle tool, then do a diagonal to lock it, something like that. This allows us to apply enough force to fully tension out that edge. Then we can just slide the line off and use just a single half hitch here. For a temporary knot to hold this while we do our final net inspection before locking everything in. All right, so finished installation. Chris White 42, Atlantic 42, 3/8 offshore gray. And this is what it looks like. This one's a bit unique. We have a double lacing pattern forward to lacing slides. Individual lacing in the corners. We have double lacing pattern to lacing slides on the outboard. Individual lacing in the corner. And then in the aft, we have an alternating lacing pattern on this particular boat. Working up the port outboard side, double lacing pattern. And if needed, we can also do anchor chafe pads. I can see why people would enjoy this, especially if you know, so on top of the water in the Bahamas. It's like when they fish, they roll off. I don't know if we can. Yes, we are being professional. This is actually part of our job.